first we had the option of Derek Chisora or Deontay Wilder. He got to pick the ring size. He got to pick the city. He's going to get to pick my gloves. It's going to be belt to ass, and I'm going to go, stomp on his bald head. There's been conversations with me and KSI. I am going to formally ask him to come work in my corner. He will be in my corner versus Andrew Tate. He calls me up. He's like, Chase, man, I really need you. There's not another man that I could trust more than you to handle something like this.
There seems to be this beef and stipulation between Mams and KSI right now. Is this fake? Is this all just to sell the fight, or is this really true what's going on? Hello and welcome to a Biel Takes episode. One of the biggest pieces of news, I think, in crossover boxing has just been announced on the Misfits boxing page. Andrew Tate, he's taking over Misfits. They're calling him the new CEO. They're kicking out KSI. And the man to face him is none other than the champion at heavyweight Misfits boxing and a friend of mine, Chase DeMoor. Chase, welcome in. What an announcement,
Yeah.
though.
Man, what an announcement, man. This is one of those things where you have to sit on this for a minute. Obviously, this is something I've had to keep to myself since July. And, there's been a lot of moving pieces to get something like this to happen. Obviously, Andrew Tate being one of the most famous men in the world, it's going to come with a lot of stigma. It's going to come a lot with eyeballs and comments coming back towards my way. So just mentally preparing for that was a challenge in itself.
Well, let's talk about that because I think a lot of people are talking to Andrew Tate, talking to him how this has happened and this whole process of he's now the CEO, this and the other. I'm curious, how did this get presented to you? Because we're going from your last fight to now one of the biggest fights, as I say, in crossover boxing history.
Yeah, obviously this is one of the biggest fights in crossover boxing history. This is just, mimicking, similar to what KSI, Jake Paul, all the other major influencers have done. I'm just kind of following the lead. Prize fighting is its own sport at the end of the day. And I think, I might not, to some people be the greatest boxer in the world. To me, I think I am. But to a lot of people, they might question why I got this fight or what it means to get this fight. But here's the thing is people want to see entertaining fights. I've worked my ass off tirelessly to, make fights happen, save Misfits cards, last second, call to actions. And obviously, Mams delivered me a promise saying, I'm going to get you a big fight one of these days. And, at first we had the option of Derek Chisora or Deontay Wilder. And, July rolled around and Mams dropped it on me and said, hey, potentially we could have an Andrew Tate fight. I don't want you to get too excited about it. But it's in the works, been in the works for about a year now. We don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I just, we're to the point where I can kind of inform you on something like this. And, initially you kind of get hit with that. And I wasn't too hyped about it because I was like, there's no way they're going to send Andrew Tate to me. It doesn't make sense. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm faster, I'm more active. There has to be something. This has to be a joke,
You mentioned there has to be something. Is there something? I mean, that's the question I have for you because you, as you say, you're more active. You've had more fights as of recent. Andrew Tate hasn't been in the ring for a long time now. Yes, he has his pedigree beforehand. He said it's his 88th fight. But I'm curious, what advantages is he trying to lean on right now?
Yeah, he's got a lot of advantages that, particularly I'm not going to, flaunt on Twitter about because then it's going to, people are going to think I'm making excuses or this or that. But, if I'm just starting from the top, he got to pick the ring size, he got to pick the city, he got to pick, the judges, the referees, he got to pick, he's going to get to pick my gloves. I'm also having to be, B-side in my heavyweight title defense. And that's also a major kicker here, Biel, is it's not even really a true heavyweight title defense. I'm essentially B-side defending my heavyweight title, fighting at cruiserweight. In the contract, he has stipulated that I have to come down to 200 pounds. Mind you, the heaviest I fought at was 247, 244, something like that. So he's essentially getting a 45-pound weight drain. He also has a rehydration clause in there saying I cannot exceed 212 pounds. Every pound that I'm overweight is a $100,000 fine. And as well as if I do beat him, he does have an automatic rematch clause in there, basically with all the same stipulations. So, there was a lot of not so much negotiating on my part as, what he got. But, he's a bigger name, unfortunately. And, I'm the type of guy where I'm just like, I don't care anytime, any place, anywhere. It's going to be belt to ass, and I'm going to go, stomp on his bald head.
I'm curious. I want your take on something because obviously myself not being a part of Misfits Boxing anymore, I didn't know how they were going to announce this. And then I see online the way they announced it. And as I said at the start of the video, KSI's kicked out. Andrew Tate's now CEO, which I found very confusing. Obviously, KSI's been there since the start, and there seems to be this beef and stipulation between Mams and KSI right now. What's your opinion, or maybe your thoughts on what's going on here? Is this fake? Is this all just to sell the fight, or is this really true? What's going on?
You know what it is? I got a great relationship with KSI and Mams alike. I think that you know, business boxing in general, it's turning into like similar to the WWE. I don't actually think that there's any beef with KSI, with Mams, with Andrew. But as we know, that KSI, he does a million things. He does YouTube. He's going back to that. He's a star on Britain's Got Talent, one of the judges, I believe. He's got his plate full, and I think that Misfits right now is not the place for him. He's battling through that hand injury, and just getting into fight shape. As we all know, we're all combat sports fans here. It takes a lot of time and effort and dedication, and I just don't think that he is able or in a situation to be able to give that time and commitment to Misfits boxing. And so I do believe that Andrew Tate, somewhere online, he did say that he's getting somewhere around $100 million for this fight. My assumption is the CEO and the equity that he's getting in the company. That's what he's counting towards, like that $100 million marker is my assumption.
Has KSI actually had an opportunity to reach out to you? Because as we say, this is a big moment. I mean, it may be, as you say, WWE-esque, but surely he's had a moment to reach out to you about this fight and talk to you about it.
Yeah, he called me a couple days ago, and then he recalled me this morning. And he's got a little bit of worry on his voice, and he calls me up. He's like, "Chase, man, I really need you. I need you to come through for me." And there's a lot of eyes on this, and there's not another man that I could trust more than you to handle something like this. I'm giving you the reins to this. You're somebody that we took in from Social Gloves, even all the way back in your first fight, and they've you know we've rallied behind you despite the Stevie Knight situation, despite the PBA and the robberies with Temple Arts and the missed swing with Josh Bruckner. We've rallied because we've always believed in you, and now I'm believing in you. One more time. I think that you're at the level that you need to be at. In terms of being able to promote a fight, in terms of stardom. I believe that you have star power, and you can do this. I just needed to see your knockout power. I saw that in Tank Tolman. I needed to see your resilience. I saw that in Nate and Maricon, making people care about a fight that nobody cared about. And now I need to see it again, one last time. I need to call you up, and I need you to go, dispatch of the Cobra. What does it take? You send a goat to the garden, and the garden, the goat's eating the grass, and there's no snakes about.
Now, we obviously know for many years there's been a lot of beef between Andrew Tate and KSI, and it's been for the past 3 years, it's been back and forth, back and forth. So I'm curious, can we expect to see KSI integrate into your camp at all to maybe give some words of wisdom or maybe even train you in the corner?
Yeah, that's another really great question. There's been conversations with me and KSI. I am going to formally ask him to come work in my corner. He will be in my corner versus Andrew Tate. It's not confirmed, so I don't want to say it's confirmed that he is, but I plan on reaching out to him in person and cordially inviting him to join my corner against Andrew Tate. I think, I'm going into this battle and I'm defending Misfits. I'm defending the reputation that we have, and I'm defending my heavyweight title. And I think, I'm doing this for KSI. This 100% should have been a KSI fight. And, the same way I stepped in for Hasim Rahman when he was fighting Alan Belcher, I'm stepping in for KSI because unfortunately he's a little bit damaged right now, and he needs somebody that he can rely and he can trust. And, he's put that on me, and I would love to see him, be involved with my camp, be there in the corner, and, be there in the ring when the announcer goes, "And still the heavyweight champion."
So I'm confused. And I'll tell you why. Because when they announced it, Misfits Boxing have announced it, they are now saying that Andrew Tate's a new face of the company, KSI's out, which sort of gives me the idea that they're kind of writing you out in this fight. Because if you win this fight, then what really happens? I mean, I'm curious on your take on that.
Yeah, that's what it is. I'm fully aware. I'm not a stupid guy. I know that they're sending me in here because they fully believe that I'm somebody that Andrew Tate can beat because of his extensive kickboxing background and whatever kickboxing promotion that he was fighting in. Do you know what it is? Is like your followers and your tweets and your likes, they can't fight for you. And I've proved this time and time again. And I think that, they are sending the lamb to get to the slaughterhouse. They're sending the lamb in for sacrifice, but they didn't take a second look at the lamb. They didn't realize that that lamb is actually the goat. And like time and time again, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to prove them wrong. You know, they sent me in there against the lion, who's Kells, and what happened? They sent me in there against the Viking. We sunk his ship. They sent me in there against the Kraken. I threw a spear through him too. And now they're sending me against this snake, this cobra. And as always, you know, I'm going to show up the best shape of my life. I'm training. I'm getting the weight off now so that I can adjust to it. And I'm going to go out there. I'm going to put belt to his ass. And then when it's all said and done, I'm going to look Mams. I'm going to look Calais, whoever the hell appointed this man as CEO. I'm going to look them in the face and I'm going to say, I'm the face of this company. Don't ever send one of your bosses in here with me.
I want to take things back a little bit because you mentioned a few times now that the weight, the stipulation about the weight and how you have to drain down a little bit. So how do you prepare for a fight like this? Andrew Tate, as we said, has a lot of pedigree. He was a kickboxing world champion. So how are you preparing for this fight? I've seen it before. This time around, you haven't been in Barcelona so much. So I'm really curious what you're doing now in training camp.
Yeah, it's been a really difficult training camp. You know, there's no expense, you know, cross. You know, we've spent every dime and penny. I've flown out sparring partners. I have pros in here: Judd Washington, Anthony Happy, Daniel Whitney. I'm bringing in multiple sparring partners. I have a whole team. I hired a full-time assistant, full-time videographer. We're not just bringing in one coach this time. I have Coach Andrew Stafford. He's done a great job, you know, keeping the cardio up. He's more of a lightweight type of fighter, you know, helping me adjust to that cruiserweight, you know, the speed, the cardio, etc. We got, you know, Coach Gary Olive, who's always around and about. He's down here as well. You know, we all know he loves England, but he flew, you know, 11 hours to get out here, and he's on me from sun up to sundown. The guy's waking me up, you know, putting me to bed, you know, monitoring my health app, making sure that, you know, everything's all good. You know, it takes a lot of moving pieces to make something like this happen. And obviously, you know, if Andrew Tate wasn't worried about me, then there would be no drainage. This is supposed to be for a heavyweight title. This is supposed to be me defending it. But it seems like, you know, in this situation, it's me that's going to have to make weight. It's me that's going to have to go out there and prove that I'm not the underdog. And I'm okay with that. I have this chip on my shoulder. And like I said, we brought in a lot of people. We have a nutritionist. And once we're down to weight in the next couple of weeks, you know, we're about 10 pounds away now, then we could focus on, you know, the boxing and the cardio aspect. And then at that point, you know, everybody's fucked. You know, now, you know, we're going to come down, we're going to take the cruiserweight belt. We're going to, you know, keep the heavyweight belt, and then we're going to be the double champ.
I am really surprised with how much Andrew Tate has actually been uploading in terms of his boxing ability and what he's doing for his training. He actually just posted the other day that he's training with Badu Jack as well. I mean, the WBC champion. What do you make of his training? I mean, what did you make of his sparring? He's always uploaded a few sparring clips. I wish I could show it right now, but I want your breakdown of it.
Yeah, you know, obviously I have a whole team that's digesting all this stuff. I don't really look too much into it because I think it's all cap. I think the guy's very smart. I think he's a businessman. He wants me to look at one thing and believe it. But if you think that that guy's going to fool me into thinking that he's one of the richest men in the world, one of the most connected men in the world, if you think that his best sparring partner is Fez Batista, and I love Fez, don't get me wrong, but let's be honest, Fez is not a boxer. You know, he's sparring against guys like that and these old men and these skinny, frail dudes. I don't think he's ever been in there with a real athlete. And the thing is like, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm not at parties, I'm training all day. And this guy's, you know, he's ripping cigars and he's throwing these hands that people don't know. Like I wanted, you know, 12 rounds against him. I wanted 10 to 12. And, you know, he insisted, and I have the email, he insisted on 6 rounds. He wants it, you know, short, sweet, so he can maybe get a controversial robbery. And the thing is, Biel is like, I fully know that if that goes the distance, they're going to give him the win. And I'm not really concerned about that because, you know, everything we've done in camp this far is we're going to knock him the fuck out before it gets to the judges. And, you know, that's what it's going to be.
I've got a couple more things before we wrap this up. I'm really curious as well. You had some comments to say about Wade because Wade did a breakdown. He broke down what you do and he broke down what Andrew Tate does. And he had a few interesting things to say. Could you actually comment to me? I know you said some stuff on Twitter, but could you reiterate what was your thoughts on what Wade's breakdown was of both of you guys?
Yeah, you know, I like Wade. I think he does a great job with what he does, but he is a clickbaiter. And the thing is like, it kind of goes back to, I think people are looking at the wrong thing here. I think people are looking at this in terms of he's more famous and he's got all these followers and he talks a big game on the internet. So therefore he's going to beat Chase. And I think that's where Wade is fucking up. And I said on Twitter, I said, you know, everybody pick a side and stay there. I don't want anybody coming on this side of the fence after I'm said and done with this. And if Wade was smart, Wade would understand that, you know, size, skill, ability, heart, youth, cardio, all these things play a factor. And you're talking about a guy with a kickboxing pedigree from 15 years ago, that he won some promotion championship. It is what it is, but it wasn't even, at a high level, at a much smaller weight. And I don't think that Wade understands how heavyweight boxing works, and my awkward style, it works for me. And, like I said, no shade to Wade, but, he picked Andrew Tate, said it was going to be easy work for him. And I took that, to heart. And essentially Wade signed that man's death warrant. And, when it's all said and done and I knock him out, and I'm going to look Wade dead in his eyes and I'm going to be like, hey, buddy, listen, that YouTube channel is going to start crashing if you don't figure this shit out. Because at a certain point, you have to understand that a 38, 39-year-old Andrew Tate who just spent a year in jail is not coming off the bench and fighting a fresh young Chase DeMoor who's had 10 fights just this year.
Well, let's talk about that. 10 fights just this year. I mean, you've been keeping that activity, and people have had their comments to say about some of the opponents and the caliber that you've been facing. But talk to me about that activity. Why have you done this? I mean, not everyone takes 10 fights in 1 year.
Yeah, and the thing is like that's what they don't understand. It's like I don't really get hit. I've never really been hit. I don't take damage, and as long as you're not taking damage, you have the ability to fight. I think having these fights, it's the same as having a spar. I just put more pressure on myself. Those of you that are fans of professional sports, football in particular, like Barca and all these other, premier teams, in La Liga, etc. They have practice games, they don't really count anything, but the reason they do that is why? So they get used to the atmosphere, they get used to the routine, the wrappings, the pressure, the lights, the scoreboard, and it counts for something. It goes on your box, it goes towards ranking. And I think that in order to mimic a fight outside of sparring, you have to be in there fighting. So people can say what they want about those opponents, but at the end of the day, this is heavyweight boxing. One punch can change the whole dynamic. And I'm putting my career, my reputation, my financial, my money, all on the line to go out there, and I'm fighting these guys. But they don't understand that I'm getting rounds now. I'm getting experience. Every time I'm under there, I'm more and more comfortable. And that's why, from fight to fight, they're like, oh, your last Misfits fight to this Misfits fight, they think I have these insanely large jumps, but they don't understand that between this Misfits fight and this Misfits fights, I've had, 4 or 5 fights, 3, 4 fights. You know what I mean? So when they're talking on the commentary, like, wow, this is the best we've ever seen, Chase, it goes back to the, thousands of rounds of sparring. It goes back to, driving to Mexico and Colombia and getting that experience, Biel.
You've mentioned a few times how this fight's going to go, and you've said a knockout. Now, I want an exact prediction. When that bell goes off, I mean, we're only a matter of a few months away, 20th of December, you're going to be across from Andrew Tate. He's going to meet you in the middle of the ring. Talk me exactly what is going to play out.
Yeah, I think he's gonna hobble to the front of the ring, and he's gonna come out in that bullshit Muay Thai kickboxing stance. I'm gonna jab his head in. First round he's gonna try to pace himself. Second round, I think I'm gonna coast a little bit and let him gas himself out. Third round, I'm gonna turn it up on him, and I'm predicting start of the fourth round. I'm gonna throw an overhand, and it's good night, Mr. Tate.
Chase, this is your platform now. I mean, as I said, you got the main event. This is the biggest card Misfits has ever seen. So I want you now to talk down the lens, look at it, and give Andrew Tate your final words before we wrap up.
Andrew Tate, I'm here to tell you, man, for everything that you have done in your life, every controversy, whether it's true or not, you are going to have to answer for each and every one of those eventually. And it's Judgment Day. I am the judge, I am the jury, and on December the 20th, I will be the executioner. Good luck.